You are listening to the It's Your Time podcast, and I'm your host, certified life coach Michelle Arnold Burke. In today's episode, I'm discussing mastering time and priorities, a fresh start for 2025. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the podcast, friends. Happy 2025. Hopefully, you had an amazing holiday season and happy new year. And I know for some folks, they do resolutions. I am not really into that, to tell you the truth. I prefer to think about envisioning my future self. So instead of resolutions, think about the person that you want to become this year. Ask yourself, what will be different this time next year? How will I think? How will I feel? How will I show up? What habits will I start or maybe stop? And I just want to caution, when you're doing this work, be sure not to put your future self on a pedestal. Future self does not necessarily have it all figured out, okay? So let's think about her as a friend. So you would think about the advice that maybe she's giving you, but think about the challenges. So also think about how you are going to show up, for example, when work becomes a shit show, right? You have to think about all of it because we are the entirety of the human experience. And so your future self will also be in that predicament, situation, whatever you want to call it. So just get clear, like think about it. And I also love the idea of having a word for the year. It's really a way that helps us kind of set intentions. Or for me, I think it's like the energy that I want to bring. And so for 2025, I am choosing the word rooted. And that is more of a grounded, intentional, deeply connected, like committed is kind of what I'm thinking when I'm thinking about the intention behind being rooted. So it's going to be fun. Let's do it together. I'd love to hear what your word of the year is. So please feel free to, shoot me a DM, send me a message. Okay, now in today's episode, I want to share some of the strategies for you to be able to manage time effectively, set priorities, and reduce overwhelm in your personal and professional life. This has been a game changer for me, and it is constantly an effort that I work on every single day. It's important because these tools will help you kick off 2025 with clarity and control. And I know there is a constant demand at work to meet quotas, to respond to clients, to manage administrative tasks. And this, paired with juggling work responsibilities with your personal life, can be overwhelming. And I do not want your word of the year to be overwhelmed. Right? Let's think about this. Effective time management will be the key for you to reduce stress, increase your productivity, and create more time for what truly matters. Notice I said create, because extra time just doesn't appear on the street as you're walking down it, right? You need to be intentional with where you are placing your energy and aligning priorities with values that enhance fulfillment in your life. So let's dive in. Strategy number one, mastering time blocks. And you've heard me say this maybe a million times here on the podcast. Don't just have a to-do list. I get it. I love a to-do list. I love the dopamine hit of marking it off when it's done. But I want you to take that list and plug in the activities for a specific time on your calendar. Now, I get that schedules change. A client or a patient or a doctor might call, and there may have to be a legitimate change in the schedule. Totally fine. You also block in buffer time, and that allows you to make up for any last minute changes. So maybe you think about buffer time either at the end of the day or at the end of the week, where you kind of catch up on the things that maybe didn't get done as initially planned. But hear me when I say this is not that you are using the buffer time as something to be used against yourself, right? So it is not to be used for those times when maybe you don't feel like doing something and you just keep putting it off for the sake of putting it off. I really want you to think about what is in alignment with your goals. When you're thinking about your future self, is this something she would do or she would not do? Be very intentional. Don't just not do things because you don't feel like it. There's a lot of things we don't feel like doing, but we actually have to get it done. So I want to just reiterate there is so much power in scheduling focused time blocks for different activities. Maybe you're thinking about work tasks, personal commitments, self care, and I will promise you the gasoline that goes on the fire of all of it is when you can batch similar tasks. So maybe you set time on, let's say, at 4 o'clock on Fridays to do an expense report for 1 hour. Hopefully, you don't necessarily need that long. Maybe you don't have 52 available expenses like I do. But listen, if you're in sales, you probably do because I know most of us do not really love expense reporting. But you get the idea, right? Block the time so that you are intentional with getting it done and then don't just say you can't do it when that time comes because you don't feel like it, right? It is really going to be so much more beneficial for you to be productive and to be able to move more towards those things that change your life, right? That make you think about what it is that you want to be feeling, thinking, and doing at the end of 2025. You can even do this for cold calls, right? Maybe there are certain days that you just get after it and it doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, to help get you started, you can go to michelleburkecoaching.com and download a free priority playbook planner. Say that 3 times, right? This is really an opportunity where you can map out your top goals, put them out on daily calendars. You can look at it from a quarterly standpoint. And listen, eventually, of course, put it on your digital calendar or your planner. But I just like to start with, especially if you're kind of new to this, with writing it out so that you can also give yourself the grace of adjusting times as you go and you start to see that maybe certain activities didn't take as long as you thought, and maybe certain activities were quicker or did take longer than you thought. So be clear, right? Make sure you have your priorities down on paper. A lot of times, we keep things in our head and our brain is not meant for storage. It is meant for processing. So get the priorities out. Once you also get them out on paper, it really allows you the opportunity to kind of reassess and make sure that those are the priorities that you want to be focused on. So you can do that in the priority playbook also. And then you have to protect those blocks as non-negotiables where you are intending to be supporting the values and the priorities that you have set up. That is a level up. Protecting your blocks as non-negotiables. It will truly be a meta skill that you take in every aspect of your life. Honoring commitments to yourself is another game changer. And maybe your example can be that you want to start a new morning routine. Maybe 30 minutes of self-care and planning for the day. Put it on your calendar. So maybe between 5 and 5:30, before anyone is up, you get it done. And self-care is really decided by you. Maybe it's a workout. Maybe it's just sitting with coffee and a journal. But give yourself the time to do that and get your day planned. Maybe you also set a work block. So for example, maybe you have 2 hours that are like high priority client outreach or 1 hour for patient follow-up calls. The point is you get to decide based on your priorities. You set the time, you decide, you put it on the calendar, and you get it done. Next strategy, number 2, setting smart priorities. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So I'm adding this in because I want to have you really start unlearning the idea that busy is the badge of honor that we should all be wearing. And oftentimes, as we're changing and evolving and becoming our future self, it is a lot of unlearning. We go through life with these values and beliefs and thoughts that have been given to us oftentimes by our family, maybe teacher, society, and of course, everybody is very well intentioned. However, those beliefs, it's kind of like a bag that you're like carrying behind you. Are they weighing you down? You can unlearn them. You can let them go. And then you can decide what it is that you want to be able to do moving forward. Busy is not the same as productive. Use the planner to get clear on your goals, and you can do things like break down your sales targets, right, into daily, weekly actions. Maybe you want to identify personal goals, so maybe you want to spend more time with your family. Maybe that's your goal. I don't know that that's necessarily mine on the list every day. Making sure that you get your workouts in. That for sure is on my list. I need to. This crazy is with workout in place. If I didn't, there'd be a whole nother level of crazy. So think about starting each day by identifying what the top 3 priorities are for you. So ask yourself, what is the one thing that will make today feel successful? There is a great book actually called The One Thing, and it talks about this idea. What is the one thing that if I did it today, I could take a couple of significant steps towards that SMART goal? Like maybe one thing actually knocks out your list of 2 or 3 other things that can just be handled once you do the one thing. But you have to be clear on your goals, right? You're more likely to not feel busy and stressed and overwhelmed when you're clear on your goals because you know what needs to be done and what doesn't need to be done, which leads me to strategy number 3, reducing overwhelm with delegation and saying no. So you have your priority set, you have your idea of what needs to be done to hit the SMART goals. Now you identify tasks that can be outsourced or delegated to team members. And this can also include, dare I say, asking for help at home. People cannot read your mind. You need to be the one to decide, is this something I can delegate? Or maybe even delete. I have a rule when I start to see something on my lists that I just kind of keep kicking the can down the road, right? Maybe it's on my to-do list. Don't really have a place on it for the calendar. I'm going to work on putting it on the calendar tomorrow, next day. Obviously, it's not something that maybe needs to get done. Can I just delete it? I think the other important part to this, though, is that you need to be willing to receive help and to not think that you are the only one who can do it. And I get it. I see you. I am you. Like I said, I work on this myself. We have to be open to receiving help. And the other part of delegating or deleting is being able to say no. It's important to set boundaries to protect your time. This is sometimes some of the hardest work that we do because we try to make everyone happy. But what if you start thinking about making yourself happy in 2025? And that is not a rally call to say F everyone else. There can be power in using and. You know I love the power of and. 2 things can be true at the same time. You can set boundaries to protect your peace, and you can still be a good person. You can start practicing maybe just polite but firm ways to decline additional tasks that don't align with your priorities, right? I think they call it being voluntold to do things. You can simply say, I'd love to help, but my schedule is full right now. Simple, right? Pretty straightforward. I mean, I know Robin from Peloton is always reminding me that no is a complete sentence as well. But, let's just ease into it. Start with, I'd love to help, but my schedule is full right now. And I think that can just be it. And then you let it go and you move on. Okay, let's do a quick recap here. Number 1, get clear on your goals. And I will also add a little twist in here. As you're going through the year, be willing to pivot, but you have to have a starting place. You have to know what the initial goals are as you build on each month. If you prefer, I would even say maybe set goals for the first quarter, and then you can reassess. And again, quarter review options are part of the free planner, michelleburkecoaching.com. Get on over there, check it out. It's a lot of fun. I even have some journal prompts, so there might be some in there about future self-work. I love future self-work. Use the time blocks for focused work. Set SMART priorities daily. Reduce overwhelm by delegating and saying no. And it sounds pretty simple, right? Not always easy. So I want to encourage you to choose one strategy and implement it today. Do not wait. If you're listening, think about which one kind of resonates the most for you. Start small. Remember, compound effect. Small actions over time lead to lasting change. So choose one strategy, implement it today. Get on over to michellebergcoaching.com and download the free planner. You can also just reply to me with any questions. Once you have the planner, you're on my email list and you can totally connect and let me know if you have any questions as you go. You don't have to do it all at once. In fact, it might be helpful to just start with a little time for journaling on those goals for 2025 so that you gain clarity around the priorities and you can imagine who you are becoming this year. So much fun. Let's embrace 2025 as the year to thrive, both professionally and personally. I'm liking the idea of best year yet mentality. I've heard a couple of folks talk about it, and I think I'm going to step into that. And please be sure to share this episode with colleagues who might find it valuable. And if you're so inclined, heck, leave a 5-star review. That can also help more folks find these tools and be able to make that ripple effect in the world. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Okay, friends, that's what I have for you today. Let's meet back next week. But for now, make it a great day. Take care.